Hello, welcome, and yes, I know I misspelled planes on the title card. Thankfully, I have an awesome person working in the background that can overcome my awesome spelling.
You did ask me that question earlier, like which planes is it? I didn't know you were being serious.
No, I typed that. It's funny because on one it was I typed planes, and the other one I typed planes. Hey phone, be quiet. Oh, I don't need to hear myself. You know, everyone says I have an ego, but I really hate hearing my own voice. Let's see.
Oh, I do too. Oh my god.
Thank you for subscribing there, Cold Iron Geeks. Good to see you. And thank you for the first time chat there, Viral Branch. I'm guessing that is Viral Branch, unless it's Vaiwonbu Branch. I always like to figure out how a number would sound when somebody uses it in place of a letter, just in case they're trying to put it in as a unique sound. But anyways, welcome to a special edition of our Fireside Chat. We normally do these on Sundays and Tuesdays. We're doing a Thursday edition, especially for Jacob here, the creator of
Plains of Orredon.
There we go. What would you like to say about yourself as we get started?
About me. Oh, geez. About me. So I've been, I guess, a little bit of history. I've been playing tabletops of one sort or another since I was 14 years old. So that's been uncomfortably more than half of my life now, as time marches on. I've been dungeon mastering for the last decade. Um, as far as relevant stuff, my favorite foods are sushi and pizza, and I just have an obsession with dice. I am an unashamed, unabashed dice goblin.
I would not suggest sushi pizza. That is not good.
Have you had that abomination?
I had some while I was traveling once, and that was not so good. It was just like, why is this a thing?
There was a fusion grill that opened up in my hometown that tried to mix sushi with Americana.
I've seen
really bad
some
idea.
attempts at it, but yeah, it's
No. The Coke I was drinking was the most flavorful thing that I had that day, and it wasn't even Coke. I'm sorry, it was tea. The sweet tea that I had the most flavor of anything I ate in that restaurant. I was very upset.
I'm not even a sweet tea drinker. I've been to a couple restaurants that that the tea has been the best part.
Oh, I'm in where I'm at. Like, yeah, you drink sweet tea.
I'm gonna guess the South.
Technically, no, but you would think it.
I always love going to the South and be like, "Can I get a glass of iced tea?" And they'll say sweetened or unsweetened. Depending, the further south you get, they don't even ask. They just bring you sweetened.
Yeah, you're lucky they asked.
Yeah, you get like northern part of the South, it's like sweetened or unsweetened. I'm like, how do you unsweeten tea? And then just get the poor waiter or waitress staring at me like, wait,
I don't know.
Unsweetened tea? All of a sudden they're
what alchemy is this?
like, we only get it in sweetened form. I guess nobody's ever ordered it unsweetened before. Like, what is it? Do we actually strain the sugar out? Like you watch the wheels turn. Like, you've only ever had sweet tea, huh?
Oh no, I watch them like I've seen them like at the McDonald's, just like straight up have an entire bag of sugar that you get at Kroger or something, or a grocery store. They slice open 2 of those and just pour them both into the vat of tea, and it's like, oh,
yeah. I like.
No wonder it's so good, but it kills you.
Yeah, I like plain tea, no sugar, and it's not unsweetened, because if it's never been sweetened, you can't unsweeten it. I mean, my water
That's true.
Just has. I just take lemon and dump it in there, and it's like. Oh.
We did the same thing whenever a long time ago I worked at a hardware store, and we had people that came in and asked for a hot water heater all the time, and it's just like, no, that's wrong. It's either a hot water tank or a water heater. It's not a hot water heater. It's already, the water is already hot. You don't need.
I mean, I guess if it's faulty, then it's a hot water heater. Like, why is it still running? The water's already hot. Oh God, it's gonna blow.
You'd be amazed at how many times someone came in for a spout replacement, like an overflow spout replacement for a water tank, and they're like, just get a 3/4 inch brass plug for it. No. That the valve that you need that costs $36 for a reason. You're not going to replace it with a $1.30 plug. No.
Well, on the same vein, we all do the same one. I'm going to run by the ATM machine.
Yep.
You're going to go to the automatic teller machine.
Machine.
Anyways, let's talk about your game. What would you like to start with there?
Orredon, to get the general grasp of what Orredon is and what I've been working on for the last 8 years of my life, is a traditional long-form fantasy game So right along the same lines as D&D or Pathfinder, whatever else. So the campaigns are supposed to last months or even years. I made it because whenever I started, I was at the college, the tabletop club at my college. And I had a really specific idea of a character that I wanted to play, and I went around to all the different DMs that were running different kind of games. Because this is before 5th edition came out, so people were actually running other stuff. So I went around to all these different DMs running all these different kinds of systems, and I explained my character, and I was like, hey, can I play this in the system that you're running? And I got a lot of and well, kinda, or if you prestige class into this and then multi-class into that, but the barbarian's going to be better than you every step of the way anyway. And I was just like, that's stupid. Like, why can't I just play the character that I want to play? Why can't I just do what I want to do? Why do I have to jump through so many hoops? Why am I getting maybe answers? And then, like the young and stupid person that I was, I said, screw it. I'm going to make my own D&D with blackjack and hookers. How hard can it be?
10 years later, you're like, oh God, why did I do this?
Oh God. Holy cow. If I had known at the time what a gargantuan effort creating like the thing that what it took to make what I wanted to make would have been, I might never have started. Because holy God almighty, this has been a hell of a journey. But I can say at this point in time that I have succeeded in my quest 8 years later. You legitimately can play whatever it is that you want to play, because the primary thing that I have done is I have decoupled all character abilities from any class. So pretty much whenever you pick your class, and the game will come out with 8. We have several more that we're working on, but they need a lot more work before they would be ready. So the game, we're planning on launching it with 6 classes and a few more in the background. But between those 6 classes, and then especially after we get the other 2 or 3 live as well, you can literally do whatever you want. The only thing that you choose whenever you choose your class is your spell list and how your casting resource operates. Because every class has its own unique casting resource and its own unique casting mechanics. Other than that, everything that could be considered class skills or subclass skills or anything of that nature has been broken down into feats and just dropped in a giant feat list. So, and you get the chance to pick up a new one or upgrade one that you've already got every single level up. And the way that you decide which of those feats that you can get is all based on prerequisites. So if your strength is this and your dex is that, then you qualify to pick up this feat. So obviously it's a completely point by base system. You're in charge of what your character looks like and what it's capable of from minute 1. And that never changes. And I see people basically like have one idea for their character in mind when the game starts. And then they start setting themselves up to be able to do the things that the character that they wanted to do can do. And then as the party kind of shakes out and like they learn each other and they figure out what everyone else wants to do and what everyone else is capable of, they're like, oh, well then it might be better if I change it to go do this other thing, over here. And you're completely free to do that. You never lock yourself into any kind of like decisions that you can't undo at any other point in the game. So, like, if you play like 5th edition or something like that, you know, when you get to level 3, you're done. Like 80-90% of what your character will ever be has already been decided between your class, subclass, your background, and your race. Like 80% of all your choices, unless you multi-class, is already made for you. Absolutely not the case with Orredon. You can always alter your course, and you can always decide to pick up this or that or whatever else based on where you apply your points. And you get the chance to apply more points every single level up, because I don't use mods either. So if you have a 15 in strength, you're adding 15 to your damage. Like there's no like, you know, +2, +3, whatever else. So like there's a lot of flexibility involved.
Somebody in the stream did a posture check. They called you out by name, said you need a posture check, Jake.
Uh-oh.
Felix, I'm assuming you might know each other.
I do, in fact, know Mr. Felix. I do.
And and it's so easy when we get on these streams to like you kind of hunch over, you like get into your standard like Mr. Burns posture for working. And yeah, we all. That's why I actually threw the posture check in there, so that way people can poke at me, because I'll do the same thing. But it's also why I have the camera set the way I do. Is like I have to set up to keep my face, and otherwise, if I start to hunch over, it's like, hi.
That's very fair. That's a good way to kind of self-regulate too. Yeah.
Okay, so you said you like if you do damage, strength goes straight through. Mm-hmm. Why'd you choose that instead of kind of a more traditional approach of a fraction of that?
It started off that way. I don't think I ever actually had mods, but I did like, half your strength goes into this or that. But the way the math works, is if you're going to have bigger numbers on the players, you just need bigger numbers overall. Mm-hmm. So that, and the fact that every single stat in Orredon does something important. Like if you're a barbarian and you want to swing an axe, and barbarian isn't even a class, by the way. That's just an archetype, like an idea. You need strength for damage, but you still need dexterity for accuracy. Yeah. So across all weapons, regardless, dexterity is accuracy, strength is damage. And when you're spellcasting, the exact same thing is true for wisdom and intelligence. Wisdom is accuracy, intelligence is damage.
Okay.
Constitution, you don't gain any permanent max HP based on your class per level up. All you get is whatever your constitution is. So if you have a con of 10, whenever you level up, you gain 10 maximum hit points. So the way that Orredon is kind of balanced out is by making every single stat important to someone in some capacity. Everything does something. Some stats you're going to obviously find more important than others. What does a barbarian care if they have intelligence for? But, and what does the wizard...
the lock on the door to get out of the cell they're in.
Well, sometimes a lock pick is just eye smash. But, if that's your character, that's your character. But, on the same hand, what does a wizard need strength for?
To carry potions.
And that is true, to carry potions. So, and carry capacity is important. I don't know. It's just I never really liked it because it always caused more like, oh, my this one stat is this, so I got to go look up and see what that derives down to, and flipping back and forth and rules checking, and I don't like having to open the book all the time to look for answers for stuff. And like it's on the page. I know what I need to do. I don't have to look at anything. But I've also found, and this is actually a happy accident that I discovered this. Bigger numbers means you have more room to play with, and you have more room for flexibility, and you have more room for customization. So if all of your numbers are always very small, there's only so many fractions you can break that down into. Whereas if you have larger numbers, you have a lot more room to play with. Like, especially whenever you're talking about our threat score system, which is what we use instead of CR. So for the monsters and things.
Yeah.
Those numbers are very big. Like those numbers can get huge, but that's because it's the additive number of levels between all the party members instead of the average levels of like 4 or 5.
Okay.
So that gives you, the DM, a lot of room to play with whenever you're thinking about how to make an easy, challenging, or very, very difficult encounter for your players. And it's so much easier, and it actually works. Like my devs are gonna, start screaming at me in the background when I say this because they don't want me making this kind of a solid claim, but I'm gonna. Our threat score system, our monster, like the way that we handle challenge rating for our monsters actually works.
I like that. because it's one of my complaints with 5e is because the
Mm-hmm.
system really breaks around between 7 and 10. You
Mm-hmm.
already start off with characters that are fairly overpowered. You have
Mm-hmm.
heroes versus dungeon delvers, but by the
Mm-hmm.
time you get to level 7 to 10, it's a lot of work for the GM to figure out a broken system, trying to
Oh
throw
yes.
monsters at people. Like, okay, they are not enough.
Yeah, my players may be in the chat, like my devs were my players in the last game, and they'll tell you up to level 13, they thought they were going to die. Like almost every combat that I threw at them, and this is how much I trust my system, and I can give it this seal of approval here. The entire last campaign that I ran, and we went from levels 3 to 13. It was a short campaign, only like 8 months. Um, for the entire campaign, we played on Roll20. I open rolled every single thing.
Okay.
I did not secret roll. I did not hidden roll. I didn't fudge, not the first number. If I wanted them to have an easy fight, they had an easy fight. If I wanted them to have a challenging fight, they got a challenging fight. And if I wanted them to fear for their lives, they almost died. And I didn't have to fudge the first number to make any of that happen. It's just I plugged the number in. I put the number in for the threat score that was appropriate for easy, challenging, or potentially lethal, and I got the result I wanted. No fudging.
Nice. And having stuff like that where you can just make things work is always nice.
Mm-hmm. And it's incredibly easy to mod or make new monsters with my system too, because I have a universal monster maker tool. So like every single thing that you can do with the monsters, adding, subtracting, HP, AC, move speed, features, everything, all has a threat score value associated with it. So if you want to, give your monster a little bit more health, it tells you exactly how much threat score is added per unit of health. If I want to do a little more damage, it tells you exactly how much threat score is added per die damage that it does. And there's a giant list of like predetermined monsters features with different threat score values associated with those as well. So if you find a monster that you think is really, really cool that you want your players to fight, but its threat score is just, it's not quite there for your party, like they kind of bypassed it a couple levels ago, then you know exactly what you have to do to get this monster to the point where it can be a challenging encounter for your party. There's no guesswork involved. All the math is already there for you, like in very, very plain, easy numbers. And you can also use that to make your own monster from scratch. And it's guaranteed to be accurate to the entire threat score system because all 150 monsters that are currently in my book were made with that exact same monster maker. I use the exact rules from that monster maker to do everything. So consistency is guaranteed. And that monster maker is going to be in the monster manual. I'm going to include it with the book to give everyone the opportunity to mod and create new monsters however they want, from whatever setting they want, completely without any guesswork.
So somebody in the chat asks, what's the point of being so customizable? What does it mean for me as the player or even as the GM?
What does it mean to be customizable? It means you get whatever you want. I mean, like we've all had ideas for characters in our minds. That's what made me make the system. Like I had a very, very specific idea for a very specific kind of character that I wanted. And I didn't want to have to homebrew anything. I didn't want to have my DM flavor this or that or change anything to maybe make it kind of work. I just wanted to play my character. And so giving you the freedom to choose every feature, every class feature in quotes that you could ever want to apply to your character and skip all the stuff that you didn't want, that just, to me, that's what I always wanted. And I have a feeling that like I'm probably not alone in that desire.
Yeah. I like customizability, but sometimes that's a lot for people to grasp. Or sometimes you end up with that. Oh God, what do I do now?
I definitely have people that have ended up with binders full of characters.
Yeah. Let's see. Someone asked, I'm mostly a horror DM. Is Orredon any good for high stress horror campaigns? Do I need to be combat focused?
Yeah, there's a fun little a fun little situation that I ran in my last campaign that was inspired by the movie Annihilation. I don't know if you've ever watched that movie. It is a fantastic cosmic horror movie. But one of the things that they encounter in Annihilation is a bear that kills you, steals your voice, and then screams as your voice to lure in other people for it to, kill. And I completely stole it. I yoinked it straight out of the screen and dropped it straight into the game. And I ran an entire quest line around fighting that bear. And the level of paranoia that my players had trying to deal with this bear that was hunting down and killing an entire village was delicious. As a DM, it was just wonderful having them so stressed out. So yeah, like you can definitely run horror, and Orredon monsters in general are kind of designed like Witcher monsters in a way, because not only do I have a large list of like monstrous features, I also have a pretty robust list of monstrous weaknesses. So like it can be anything ranging from like, this creature treats salt as though it were acid. So like it has a weakness to salt, or it can't step on hollowed ground, or it has an autophobia vulnerability, or it's weak to this kind of oil or this holy symbol. You can make whatever weakness you want, but those things actually subtract threat score from the overall threat score of the creature. What that actually kind of turns into is if you don't use those weaknesses, then it's like they don't exist. So if I had a weakness that I threw on a monster that subtracted 4 threat score from that monster, if you don't take advantage of it, that monster's threat score is actually 4 higher than what it says on the page. So that challenging encounter is now a potentially lethal encounter because you're not abusing its weaknesses. So it's almost like Witcher-esque, where like, if you go after ghouls, you want ghoul oil or whatever else. Like there are some monsters that you really want to do your research on and like really learn about before you go out to take it down. And if you don't, and you don't have the right gear, you're in for a really rough time. So Orredon monsters are no joke.
So, it's a question in the chat, a really good one, and Lackey is known for asking some great questions. There's an adage that restrictions breed creativity, and this was going through my brain as well. Your system seems so open that the GM or player won't really hit restrictions. How does this open of a system promote creativity? Or, and I was kind of touching on this, is there that paralyzation of so much choice they don't know where to go?
The paralyzation of choice, it can be a thing. I actually have all the feats listed into 4 tiers. There's groundwork feats, adventurer feats, heroic feats, and godslayer feats. Whenever you're setting about creating your first character, the only ones that you really need to worry about are the groundwork feats. Those are the ones that you can pick up at level 1 or very, very early on. And that takes your feat options from a list of 350 or so down to like 50 or 60. And so that makes it a lot smaller of a bite to chew on whenever you're first getting started. Over the course of like multiple sessions and a couple of level ups, you have a lot more time before big decisions need to be made for you to kind of chew on it and get a better idea of what you're doing and get an idea of what direction you really want to grow in if you're new to the system. And the idea about the being too open and like a limitation breeds creativity, that's actually still kind of taken care of with the fact that you are given a limited number of attribute points. The number of skill points, attribute points, and feat points that you get per level up stay the same always. And so as you grow your character, you kind of you're looking ahead to the feats that you really want. So those heroic feats that you get access to at level 10, or even the Godslayer feats that don't even open up as available to you until level 20. So if you go down that feat list and you're looking and you're seeing like what all the attributes and things like are requiring, and you're like, I like that, I like that, I like that. That fits into exactly what my character, what I had envisioned in my mind that they can do. So you look at all those things, and then it tells you what all the prerequisites are, so you can kind of plot and graph out your character from there. The thing that's limiting is your availability of resources, like your level up resources, because you only get one attribute point, one feat point, and 2 skill points every level up. So you got to figure out how you're going to spend those. It's almost like the Path of Exile thing, because Path of Exile is not... You can build whatever you want, but the joy in the build is not necessarily what you have. It's what you didn't get. It's what you had to give up to get what you have, because your whole build could take an entire arm, but you still have hundreds of options left over that you didn't pick up. And Orredon is the same way. So you're in the game, it tells you to figure out what your character archetype is, which is like, you know, not your class, the general idea of your character. And then kind of think about what that character can do late game, and then envision that as you kind of plan ahead for what your character's build is going to be. So, and then with the attributes, I said earlier, everything is important. Like everything does something for you, and you have to decide what you're going to give up in order to get what you want. So that barbarian may has strength, dex, and con. Those are all great. His mentals are trash. So like his mental saves are going to be trash. His just anything that he's going to, any of the skills that work off of your mentals are going to be trash. So it is definitely about what you're giving up just as much as what you're getting.
There's a ton of interesting ideas they have. Let's see. Oh, I think somebody from your team is answering one of the questions as well. So,
yeah.
Because Cold Iron Geeks, which happens to be your team, correct?
Yeah, probably going off of our shared.
Yeah.
Because we're trying, like I said, we were trying to get Twitch set up and trying to get, YouTube set up.
Yeah.
So getting all of our accounts set up everywhere else too, because I plan on having videos and things like once the game is in public beta, or even whenever it's live, basically going over like much more in depth, because there's only so much that we can talk about in 2 hours, and this is a fully realized, like full-sized game.
Yeah, it's not like
so there's a lot
where you can talk about that, the concepts behind it for 20 minutes, and you've really stretched the topic. So let me read what your team wrote in the chat for future viewings.
Sure.
So every Iron Man needs help from the rest of the Avengers and their respective skills. The class selection and god selection creates unique flavors for each individual character, allowing players to tailor their character to how they want. Obviously, each class has its primary skills that complement the rest. However, a full party of the same class isn't impossible, but very challenging.
That's true.
The intent was to allow players to become the ultimate form of their idea while providing the balance, and then I think it cut off.
Yeah. Well, no, that is true. Like all that is true. Every class was designed to be able to perform any function. So the Mancer, which is our version of a wizard, he can be offense, he can be defense, he can be support, he can be healer, he can be a raw spellcaster, or he can be a spellblade. And that's true for all the other classes as well. Pretty much the only class that you kind of can't say that for is the Armsman, because the Armsman is the only class that doesn't have magic. That's basically our fighter.
Okay.
So it's kind of, it's not impossible. You still can perform any of those roles. You're just going to have to work a bit harder at it because you lack the natural tools of magic that everyone else has.
And I will have to say that as soon as you said Mancer, my brain went Dancer and Blitzen and Common and Cupid.
It's let me hold on to Halloween for a little bit longer, man. Come on.
Well, it's the one Halloween reindeer. It's the that fits in. It's wearing a pumpkin head. It's the skeletal reindeer, and Santa's like, oh,
From the Nightmare Before Christmas.
exactly.
Yeah.
Like, I really got to get rid of this one. It's my 14th reindeer. Let's see. Does Planes of Orredon drive into social skills, personality, motivations, influence, leadership? What about character flaws, defects as elements to advance dialogue or story progression? I'm a big fan of putting disadvantages and like, because as a lot of more popular games have gotten, like, they're taking away all those negative effects. And the other night we were talking about to somebody who did a book of all real world things and made them into rules for D&D. I love the concept because it allows players to make characters because perfect superheroes are not fun to play. I mean, even Superman.
Exactly.
Oh, Superman's OP, but his humanity is his flaw, which is a funny thing to say.
I don't like Superman because he's a goody two shoes, and as a writer and as someone that has had their nose buried in a book since I was 8, perfect heroes are boring.
Yeah,
like Boy Scouts are boring.
Yeah, when Superman's written at his best, he is more susceptible to the things happening around him. He may be, because he's always overpowered, but when they use the environment and the people and his humanity against him, that's when he's the best. When he has fewer interaction and more superhero fights, he's far more boring.
Yeah, and I am such a strong believer in that flawed characters are better. I hard baked that into the system.
Good.
Because I absolutely did. Before you pick any of your, like, I have a very specific 10-step process to building a character that's in the book. Okay. And choosing your race and class isn't until step 7. That's not the important part. The important part is who you are as a person. And that is, how do I describe this properly? I have numerically incentivized people to play flawed characters because Orredon actually has 8 stats, with willpower and luck being added to the normal 6 that most people are used to. Luck goes into everything. Luck goes into all your skills, all your saves. It goes into your critical damage. Like, luck is incredibly important, but you can't actually just drop points into luck. Like, you're not allowed to just put points in like on a level up. You have to earn it. And the earliest and easiest way to earn luck is to go through like your traits and detriments, because I don't have alignment charts either. I don't like alignment. That's not a thing. I have temperament instead. So there are 18 temperament options that you can pick, which is just the overall personality of your character. And then I have a list of 50 each virtues and detriments. So these are things like soft-hearted, foul-mouthed, whatever else, just things about your character that are kind of like the more specific minutia. And you can earn 2 points in luck at level 1 right off the bat by having 2 more detriments on your list than you have positive traits, than you have virtues. So some people are real weenies about it, and they just pick two detriments, and that's it. Like, whenever they make their character, like that's Weenie Hut Jr. You're just copping out for the 2 points in luck. Like, get out of my face. Most people go for between like 2 and 4 virtues, and then 4 and 6 detriments. Iron Men go for like 6 virtues and 8 detriments. Like, those are the fun characters. There's no limit to how many you can pick up. You can get as many as you want, but it caps out at 2. You can only get 2 luck for having 2 more detriments than virtues. But yeah, I absolutely hard baked in playing a flawed person numerically into the system.
Good.
Yeah, it's that important to me.
I've been a big fan of because you go back to games like Deadlands. I talk about Deadlands a lot because there's things I love about it, but you have advantages and disadvantages, and you were required to take at least one disadvantage, and if you took more, that gave you more points to buy advantages, and just made you a more
Exactly.
interesting character. Like, hey, why
Cortex
are
works like that too.
yeah, yeah. There's a few systems out there, but there's not many that that reward you for being a more complex character.
And I tried to make sure that that's what happened in Orredon. Like, one of the things that I say is that and in the book too, it is better for you to have a fleshed out person of a character than to be a number machine with the personality of a painted brick. Like, because Orredon is, it is very, very friendly to optimizers. It is very, very friendly to optimizers. But and I wanted that because I wanted the freedom.
Yeah.
But as I've gotten older, you know, and I've run more D&D games and I'm getting more experience as a DM, munchkinning is not anything that I really super enjoy anymore. So I'm trying to kind of push the importance of actually having, you know, real people with real goals and dreams and aspirations at the table. And as far as the other portion of the question goes, as far as social interactions, um, there are points that you can put into some sort of things for social interactions, but I'm also kind of the opinion that, like, of all the things that your tabletop character can do, almost all of them are things that you cannot. You can't cast magic. You can't kick down a castle gate.
Well,
You can't pick up
maybe you can't.
yeah. Let me not. Okay, let me take this. Most of us can't kick down a castle gate. But the one thing that you can do, that your character can, is talk.
Yeah.
And so you should. But I do have an alternate system for people that would prefer to treat social encounters as actual encounters. I do have a system like that where basically the DC for any social check that you want to do, which includes deception, charm, persuasion, or intimidate, the usuals, is affected by like 5 different things. And that includes like what the power difference is between the party and the person you're talking to, and not just physical power, but social or economic power as well. Because, you know, a level 10 party speaking to a king, that's not, even though the party could kill the king very easily, the king still has a lot of power. So the king is still probably going to talk down to the party a little bit. Now, once they hit level 15 or 20, they're demigods, and that might change. But at that point, the power level is still fairly equal. It depends on like what is the person wanting, what is the party wanting the person to do? Is it something that the person is totally okay with and really wanted to do anyway, or is it something that they are very, very morally against? You know, like how does the party feel? How does the person feel about the party? Did the party help them out? Are they known as heroes to the nation, or did the party just burn down their house to kill the rat infestation in the basement? Like, all these things will severely, you know, change what the DC of any social encounter or social check will be. So that is an optional rule. You don't have to use it. You can just have the party talk, and if the party, you know, role plays really well, and role playing is also part of that too. If the person trying to make the check is speaking in character, talking and using points that NPC would really care about, like not just making a general statement, but like connecting it to that NPC and the NPC's goals, that also gets a bonus. So you very much can just do whatever you want, do what you normally do, as far as, all right, what are you trying to say? And, you know, like, okay, well, he seems very interested to give me in what you're saying. And he looks like he's agreeing to it. Go ahead and give me a persuade check. And then, like, you know, just subconsciously drop the DC down to like 12, whatever. Yeah. But if you wanted to use that advanced system that really took a lot of things into account to determine the DC of those social checks, you can.
How easy is it to learn and get into? Is there anything I should worry about before learning a new system? And as someone that learns a lot of new systems, I've run into ones that like, oh, hey, this makes a whole lot of sense. And other ones like, oh, why are they wording it this way? It just makes it so much tougher.
Yeah, oh my God, we have read and reread and reread and reread everything and reworded everything so many times just to try and clarify everything that we possibly can and make it as simple as we can. We're just, the level of neuroticism that we've taken over the wording of these things, because we have multiple neurodivergent people on the team, and so that actually is kind of helping us. a little bit because we're able to see things from different learning and different like perception angles. Um, a lot of the rules in Orredon are pretty straightforward. When it starts off, it's very simple. It gets complicated as you gain levels, because as you gain levels, that's whenever you're picking up feats and things that give you access to different mechanics. And those can get a little bit complicated, but at that point, you've been playing the game for 4, 5, 6 months, and you've got 3 or 4 sessions to really get your hands on the new mechanic before you get another feat point and you can pick up another one. The action economy system, we've worded it the best way that we can, but the thing to kind of keep in mind is the action economy system is very simple and very free. So that might throw people off a lot. There's no dedicated move action, major action, bonus action, like free, whatever. You have 3 minor actions to spend in a turn. 2 minor actions can combine together to make a major action. So if you spend 2 minor actions together to perform a major action, that's what you spent, and you have 1 minor action left. And then there's this, very neat, easy to read list of all the things that you can do as major or minor actions. And that's the entire action economy. There are lots of feats that say that, this thing that used to take a major action, you can now do as a minor action because you're just that experienced with it. You can do it very quickly. There are feats that give you, some extra uses of minor actions. And then anything that you can do as a minor action, you can do as a reaction. So there's not even a list of actions that you can only do as reactions. It's anything that you can do as a minor action, you can do as a reaction. So that's the thing that tends to kind of throw people until they get their heads around it, which takes like 2 combats, and then they're good. Everyone seems to, well, not everyone. That would be unfair. Everyone's first character, I believe, is the truest expression of what they really wanted in the first place when they got into the system. They weren't worried about optimization. They weren't worried about, I got to pick this up at this level, that up at that level, blah, 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 blah. What they make for their first character, their first time, is what they've always wanted. And after that, after they play that game for 6 to 8 months with that character, however long it happens to be, they go through the process of learning, what they need to move up and where they need to put their points to get the things that they want for that character. That's whenever the numbers start clicking in their head. And their next character, before it even hits the table, will be plotted out to level 10. And that's the cycle, like every single time. So by the time you hit your second character, you understand how the system works. It's just, it all makes sense.
So you've brought up a few times that it's more geared towards long-term gameplay. How good is it for one-shots, like trying to show it off at an event? Is that
if you have people that have never played it before, probably not great, because your first character can take a while to make. Obviously, it's a new system, and there's a lot of options.
And it's definitely a system that you want people to experience the character creation versus, hey, here's a pre-made character.
Yes, the character creation is kind of the point. Like, it's one of the biggest selling points of the whole thing. For the players, at least. For the DM, it's the threat score system that actually works. For the players, it's the freedom to make anything you've ever wanted. If you have people that are doing a one-shot that already understand how the system works as like a show, that's an entirely different story, because there's a lot of crazy stuff that we can show off that would blow people's minds. Like, wow, you can actually do that? Like, yeah, we're level 10 and we're already demigods, but we're not even a third of the way through the monster manual yet. Like, there's still so much more, so much scarier that would annihilate us, even though we're all level 10, which is another issue that like some other systems have, where it's like, at a certain point, what do I throw at my players?
Yes.
Orredon does not have that problem. It does not.
And it's something that's always frustrated me with some systems. Just like, why is your balance so frustrating? Why is it so off? Why? And it's great for a few levels, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, this is no
trash.
Yeah, and then your GM's like, I don't want to play anymore.
Yeah, no, or Orredon does not. It's and that kind of comes back to what I said earlier. It's because we don't use condensed numbers.
Yeah.
Like the only place that we use condensed numbers are for derived attributes or derived stats, which is like what's your fort save, what's your will save, what's your reflex save, what's your initiative. Those all kind of come down to like combining and averaging numbers together. But that's all printed out on the character sheet. So, and that's also why having a balanced set of stats is important because it goes into everything. But the threat score system, like my party of 5 level 10s were fighting a threat score 62 monster. And that's what its designation is, 62. And that is within the difficulty, the number range to be a challenging encounter. So if it's like, if the threat score on one side of the field is equivalent to or up to 5 higher than the party's side of the field, it is an easy fight. If it is between 6 and 10 higher than what's on the party side of the field, then it is a challenging fight. If it is 11 to 15 higher, then it is a potentially lethal fight. And if you go up higher than 15, you're going to wipe your party. I don't know what to tell you. That's not my fault. That's yours. And that can be made up of... or the players. If the DM says, are you sure? Like, are you guys really sure? Yeah. All right.
So without the... so how all your numbers are open. So I always talk about how a D20 is a very swingy thing. The difference between a 1 and a 20 is so massive. And that's why I like D6 systems. Just people understand them, and doing a pool of them is easy. But like D12s are far more reliable. You don't get the giant swings. And if you're just adding, hey, you've got 15 strength, that adds in every time. How do you deal with that what could be a very swingy nature in your system?
The fact that the players are using much larger numbers than average as their baseline numbers makes the D20 a lot less swingy. So when we're talking about like adding a D12 or adding 15 to your strength score, that's only applying to like the D6s, D8s, or D12s that you're using for damage. Yeah. What the other thing that you're interested in is like your accuracy, which is going to be your dex. So if a creature has, let's say, 23 AC, which is not hard at all to achieve relatively early on. If a player has a plus 13 to accuracy, they've still got a 50% chance to hit. So it's really all about keeping track of what numbers the players can hit and keeping track of the math of the D20 and then matching the challenge of what it is that they're trying to do with the average of where the player is capable of. So as long as the math works out to where if it's in the player's favor, if you want it to be, or if it's not in the player's favor, if you don't want it to be. I don't know how to explain it better, but again, it falls down to bigger numbers make things easier because you have more room to make tweaks and adjustments with ACs that are in between, the 20s and 30s. As opposed to you have like a challenging AC rating of between 21 and 24, okay. because the two hit numbers that the players are adding to their dice are so relatively small, but the numbers can be much bigger.
So you've embraced what could be swingy by trying to fill in the gaps with the bigger numbers.
Pretty much.
Okay. So over on YouTube, somebody asked, can you make a cheat sheet to easily make a character step by step?
Yeah, I've got I have a step by step list of things to do, and then I also have basically like a short list, like both of these fit on a single page of exactly what you get. Whenever you make a character, all your numbers, and then exactly what you get for that character, like based on what class it is, whenever you level up. So you don't have to go digging through anywhere to see like, oh, what do I get on this level up? No, it's all right there. But yeah, a cheat sheet that's a couple pages long for each class. Yeah, that wouldn't be a problem at all.
Let's see. I know people like to homebrew rules into a lot of tabletop
Sure.
RPGs. How easy is it to homebrew for Orredon? Is there any rules customization?
Monster homebrewing, like I said, absolutely the easiest thing you'll ever do. Um, the enchantment homebrewing for making items is, again, very easy. There's a list of enchantments that you can do, like 3 different kinds of enchantments. They have their own rules, and the goal was basically to say, like, any magic that the BBEG can do, like with their special, mumbo jumbo, whatever nonsense magic, you can do too as a player. So I have very advanced enchanting and crafting systems to let you basically make whatever items you want. Doesn't matter. And as far as like just homebrew rules go, you can make whatever homebrew rules you want. That's fine. But I do have a 19 point long list of what I call hardcore rules. And these are all like of all my years and like trolling Reddit and Facebook groups and whatever else, like a lot, I see a lot of the same homebrew rules worded differently, like over and over and over and over again. And so I basically, and most of them are more on the DM side than the player side, like to make the game harder or more gritty. And so I basically compiled that list and put them in the hardcore rules section. And so there's 19 of them because the last one counts as 10%. But every single rule that you follow gives you an additional 5% experience at the end of each play session. So you'll have things along the lines of a peasant's beginning, which is one of my favorites that no one ever wants to use. I don't know why, but it says that instead of 21 attribute points to start with, you start with 14. You are not an adventurer. You are a candlestick maker or a potter or a baker. You're just a normal dude, and you have 2 feat points to spend. That's it.
So I'll be honest, it's one of the things that I love about there was rules released for it in AD&D and Dungeon Crawl Classic. Is it start off with 0 level characters? What lives becomes your character.
Yeah, and a peasant's beginning is essentially make a level 0 peasant.
Yeah, and honestly, it's a great way to start because you
I love
don't
it.
start off as a hero. It allows you to play a character for a bit before they're a character, and go, oh, what do I really want to do with this? And be like, oh yeah. But I also love when if you're rolling for stats, just make them roll like the. So like in D&D, a lot of people roll 4d6, drop the lowest. I'm like,
Yeah.
nope. You roll 3d6 and then it just goes straight down. Just fill them in as you go, and then you'll build your character from there. And people are like, what do I get? I'm like, well, we're about to find out.
We're about to find out. That is certainly a way to do it.
And it goes back to giving those disadvantages and those weaknesses to make your characters more, more of a character.
Absolutely. I love having weaknesses in characters. If I ever play any other kind of system, I always make sure I have at least one stat that frickin' sucks. Just because it's fun to play around it.
I've said it a few times on streams. One of my favorite characters that I've ever played was a sorcerer who I ended up with an 18 charisma, but only a 3 intelligence because we did that. We just rolled stats straight down. So, yeah. So I couldn't talk, I couldn't read, but somehow
boy,
or another,
did you charm the pants off somebody.
Yeah, so we came up with that Mother Nature just really liked my character, and it's not that I cast spells, just nature was casting spells to keep me out of danger. And
Jeez.
it was just such a fun, silly character to play, and I had a blast with it because it was just something that was totally out of the norm of what you would play.
Oh, absolutely. That is having a 3 in any stat is freaking wild. Oh my god.
Yeah, and because you do the 4D, the 4d6 and drop the lowest. How often are you going to roll 4 1s? I mean, rolling 3
Never.
1s is next to impossible. And the crazier thing is, on that one, I had rolled 3 1s and 3 6s. Like all the rest of my stats were like 7s and 8s, but I had a 3 and an 18, and I was just that was the most oddball character in the party.
That is a statistical anomaly, sir.
Yeah, everything else was super normal. All my other rolls were super normal, and then, so we had a couple other players that had like 17s and 16s in stats, which rolling 3d6 is super rare. And then it was great because we ended up just throwing. We didn't have to go into the higher powered monsters. Fighting kobolds was pretty effing dangerous for us for until like level 5.
Oh, yeah. Ask my party how they feel about kobolds. How one of the biggest tests for how you know if you're DMing correctly is what kind of response do your players get when you mention the word kobolds. If it is just a universal groan and you're doing it right.
My response is, "Did they eat your baby?" So talking to somebody a couple weeks ago, a game designer out of the Netherlands, he's got kobolds in his game, but kobolds are a mainland European
Folklore, myth.
folklore,
Yeah.
but they're not little dragon creatures that somehow they became that way in D&D. So his kobolds are like Northern European,
Legitimate Nordic kobolds.
yeah. Which I was like, oh, it's super cool. I can't wait to. It's sad his game didn't fund on Kickstarter, but they're still producing the game anyways. They had the funds to do it. They were just trying to get, sales and be able to do some more art and some cool stuff with it. And then
Sure.
he was like, "Oh, we're gonna put the library in there, and we'll put you and your wife in there in the book as help." I was like, "Oh, that's super awesome." But I'm excited to see it just because I like anybody that actually goes out of their way to use real folklore into their books. Probably why I talk about Vaesen so much.
We certainly did that too with any of our monsters that we've made that have like very deep entrenched folklore. We have incorporated that into our monsters as well. What was it? A basilisk. We have a basilisk in, and it takes like 10d6 psychic damage if it hears a crow rooster, or if it hears a rooster crow, or cock-a-doodle-doo, whatever. As just one of its monstrous weaknesses. Like, it takes psychic damage if it hears a rooster caw.
Well, this dovetails into a great question we got in chat. What's the lore in Orredon like? Is it heavily established, or do I have a lot of freedom to create to make my own gods, or what? Or do I have to make all my own? So, sounds like you've taken some ideas in there.
What a big question with what a big answer. We definitely have an established set of lore. There is an established timeline that goes about 20,000 years. There is an established pantheon of 15, technically 16 gods, but you don't like the 16th one. No one does. And, extraplanar lords and, racial guardians, and selecting your pantheon at the very beginning is very important because all these gods do various things. They give you bonus to stats or bonus to skills or a special ability whenever you get up to a high enough rank in devotion. So there's definitely a world for you to play in. There's definitely established lore. And there's definitely, an established deity system that is pretty robust, especially whenever you start digging into the Divine Ardent, which is the cleric class, cleric/paladin, because they should be the same class. Anyway, it's if you want to make your own, go for it. Like, a lot of the point of having so many examples of the same sort of thing in the book that we have listed is to like the enchantments or like the gods or like anything else or like the hardcore rules is not to set in stone like the only thing that you can do. It is to provide you with the framework and the foundation to understand what numbers are involved, what abilities are involved, and what limits there are so that you can feel free to make your own and have it set in the same framework so that as long as you stick to the framework, it's still going to be balanced. So if you want to make your own pantheon of gods, go for it. Like I had another DM, custom make a god for his world. It was cool. So whatever you feel like doing. there's enough there, but there's not so much there that you feel like you're cloistered into, following along a certain set path. It's not overfilled with stuff. It's where you don't feel like you have the freedom to have any creativity.
And it's funny, Sacred Fire Games that I was just talking about with the kobolds is in chat. And they were like, hey, that's me.
Hey!
It made me kind of giggle.
I love accurate cultural representations of monsters. That's super neat.
Yes, and sometimes it just works great when you're doing that. And I I'm on a big kick. I'm like the more I talk about it, the more chances that it's going to happen. I want an RPG based upon all the cool mythology and the like from the Indian subcontinent, because it's kind of we've got like Chinese and Korean and Japanese RPGs. We've got a lot of European ones. There was just one put out for Africa. There's a couple down in Brazil that have some that haven't really made it to the U.S. We got Kaidi Crow here in the U.S. And I'm like, we got this big void here. They'll be like, and India has such really cool mythology. I'm like, oh, I want that. I want it so bad.
Absolutely alien and wild mythology. Like,
Oh, yeah.
crazy, crazy cool stuff.
Yeah, and just the history and anthropology nerd and geek in me is like, please hurry.
And one of my little personal hobbies is like always talking to people from different places around the world, and just kind of like comparing cultures, because like there's some things that like some cultures have that are like mind blowing to us, and like different perceptions that they have of like Americans that are either very accurate or very inaccurate. It's just, I just think it's neat.
Somebody in chat said there is one, and Wired did an article on it today.
Just today.
And if it's the one I'm thinking of, I've seen it. It looks really cool, and because the Indian subcontinent has like. Yeah, it was funny because I was talking to a guy who was like, oh, is your name from southern India? He's like, yes, but my family's from northern India. How did you pick my name from there? I was like, well, being a big dork, I learn where like names and stuff come from, and come to and then find out like his family had his father had traveled down to southern India for work, or his grandfather had changed their last name to fit in because he had a northeastern Indian last name or family name that wouldn't have fit in down there. And then he did well, moved back, and because he was well off enough, no one cared about his name anymore. It's one of those cultures that if you have enough funds, name doesn't matter. If you're lower class, your name matters a lot. And so he's moved to the U.S. and he thought it was fascinating that he goes, most people don't know I have an Indian last name, let alone picking what part of India.
Because I'm a dork should absolutely be a much more accepted answer to the hows or whys that people ask all the time. How do you know this? Because I'm a dork. Leave me alone.
Yeah, and one of my clients talking to me, and everybody's like, oh, this guy's he's such a hard ass, and I was like, and I said his last name, and he looks at me like I said it properly, and I was like, Farsi, and he goes, yes. He's like, one, you said it properly, and two, nobody's ever like picked it out that where my last name's from. And I was like, I've spent a little time in that region. I haven't been in the country where your last name originates, but I've been around it a bunch. And he goes, oh, military.
Yep.
But
that's about the only time Americans travel.
Yeah. And he thought it was great that I want to recognized where his name was from, and two, that I was willing to talk about it, and just I like learning where people are from and love seeing cultures intermix. I mean, in college I wrote a paper on basically how basically kebabs became sausages as they traveled up through Europe.
Oh, it just I feel like exposing yourself to different cultures almost unilaterally and universally just makes you a better person.
Yeah,
As
absolutely.
you just getting to see things from different people's perspective, open up your brain, like that's almost never a bad thing.
Well, and think of all the awesome things that we have in the world. Music. Music.
Mm.
We would. My buddy Alan, who sadly we lost in a couple days, was.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Geez, 5 years ago in 2 days. Jeez, that's crazy. Can't believe it's been 5 years already. But one of his favorite bands was Baby Metal. And I mean, think of just the most cross-genre things.
Oh, I know. Oh, I know
Metal.
who Baby Metal is.
Oh yeah. So for those of you at home, after this is over, just go look up Baby Metal.
Yes, please do.
It is.
Please do.
It is awesome, and it's and then with role playing games, I find it's a great way to introduce people into different societies and traditions and mythology, different ways to think. And it's one of the cool things that people are using it as a therapeutic tool.
Absolutely.
But you can also, you can work people into wanting to learn about cultures inadvertently. You're like, "Oh, this is really cool." I'm like, "Well, would you like to know more about where I got this idea from?" You're like, "What? Did I learn something?" No.
Oh no! And I am a huge proponent of using D&D and tabletops in general as like a therapy tool for so many things. Like, I've watched people that were just like so shy you could barely get 2 words out of them end up standing up and giving a freaking speech. Like, it warms the heart whenever someone is using tabletops to legitimately make themselves like a more open and like better person. Like, you love to see it.
I love it, and I still love. Hey, if you want to use it for escapism, please use it for escapism. If you want to use it for therapy, use it for therapy. You can mix the two, but if it's not a time for therapy and you just want to sit down and escape for a little while playing a role playing game, you've got to know the boundaries at times. But I'm
read
also,
the room.
Yeah, I love to slip in the little educational bits into games from time to time.
Sure.
My
Harlem
players,
Unbound.
I love Harlem Unbound because and he did the Haunted West that Artel Sorian's now putting out, Chris Spivey, and he did the same thing with the Haunted West that he did with Harlem Unbound, where he puts real history in there, like, hey, here's some great little tidbits and stuff about the characters that lived in this time frame and people that you may want to go meet or see or run into in this environment. And he's doing the same thing in an Old West setting, and I'm like, yes, a way for a history nerd to slip some cool shit in.
My players one time had to very forcibly and against their will learn all about ancient Greek condiments. Because there's 2 different condiments that are made with like lemon peel extract. One of them uses salt, one of them uses sugar, and they were trying to make a big mixed drink, to put silver in, because they were trying to figure out who at a party was a changeling, and they had grabbed one, and it was garum, when they meant to grab the other one, which was not alio oli, but basically the lemon extract with the peels with the sugar in it.
And yeah, I know what you're talking about. I can't think of the name of it.
That name always escapes me. But one of them you put on fish as vinegar, and the other one you put into sweetened drinks. So they made a margarita with fish vinegar, and then they had to do like these like culinary checks to try and fix it and they did. He rolled an
in real life,
so he fixed it.
In real life, you can't fix that. You put fish sauce into a martini, you're done. Unless you're want done. A fish sauce martini. I don't know what you can add to vodka to unfish sauce it.
I don't know either, but he rolled a natural 20, so he did something. So he fixed it. So yeah, they had to forcibly learn about ancient Greek condiments during one session because I like adding in those little dashes of knowledge bits there too. It was a great time.
Somebody asked me if I've tried to fix. No, actually, more vodka does not fix fish. I did put fish sauce into a drink one time, and no, the fish sauce, because a little bit goes an extreme long way,
A very long way.
and it was like we put in like a little. It was like a half spoonful into a drink, and it was like.
I can't.
And more
I
vodka didn't help.
I can't even do like Bloody Marys. I can't even do that because the flavor is just like ugh. Because you add in tomatoes and the dash of Tabasco, and it ruins the whole thing for me. Like I can't do it.
So the response was from Sherbo. I'm Polish. I can promise with enough vodka you won't remember the fish sauce. It won't fix the drink. You just won't remember that you did it. That is the perfect answer for that one. Yes, you won't have fixed it, but you won't remember that you did it.
That is true. That is true.
And it reminds me, Eric, if you're paying attention or if you're around still, need to contact PAX Unplugged to see if we can do after hours gaming and do like 18 and up games, and to see if we can do Drinking Quest at PAX Unplugged, because I think Drinking Quest is something that we need to play, and we now have a copy. So, drinking the role-playing game. I can't believe he's been making that game for like 10 years now, and he's on his sixth. He's got 6 different editions.
Wow. That's a lot of drinking.
Yes, and this has all of them in it. His most recent one, the cover looks like it's his take on the red box cover. And there's your rules. Very, very slim rules.
Yeah, it's a board game.
It's an RPG. It's a card-based RPG that is very light.
Card-based RPG.
Very light on everything because
it would
drinking.
Have to be. It would have to be.
Yes, Jason gave us a copy at Shucks. Thanks to. So I talked to him, and then the makers of this game, after I walked away, said, "Hey, dude, you need to give him a copy of your game, because do you know what he does?" He's like, "Yeah, I run into him all the time. Why does he not have Drinking Quest in the library then?" So when I came back to pick up the books from them, he was like, they go, "Hey, Jason wants to give you something." He's like, "Hey, would you like a copy of our box set?" I was like, "Why, yes, I would." I don't think I've dropped enough hints over the years that I would love copies of Drinking Quest in the library.
Having your job must be awesome because people just hand you. As a matter of fact, I handed you what I've got so far of my system. I sent that in the email in case you wanted to give it a look over. It's not in the finished form yet, but it's there.
We do have copies of Drinking Quest in the library. Well, we now have the 6-pack, so. It's all of them.
Everybody just giving you free games. That must be awesome.
Sometimes it's a lot of work, and storing it is it costs us money because we have a climate-controlled storage, and or is that Drunk Quest a different game? Now I'll have to go through. So the Drinking Quest, if we've had Drinking Quest donated before, it might be just put off to the side because they are little small boxes. This one matches the size of like many other box games, so it'll be easier to track, and it has an ISBN number on it, so we can actually scan it into our library. Running the library is a bonkers thing, and the people donating stuff is always freaking amazing, and love getting books and stuff from people. Sometimes I feel a little bad because I'm asking for stuff, like, hey, can you give me books? And I know I'm asking, I'm asking a small business, like in. And it's funny because as someone that grew up in a small business, my family started. We ran a comic book and game store for years, to the '80s and part of the '90s. And I always like, hey, don't ask your artist friends to draw something for you for free. Don't ask your photography friends to come take pictures for free. Pay them. And then here I am running a library, going to small businesses and people that have printed 150 books and go, hey, can you give me one? I'm always torn on that, but ultimately I go, okay, I hope they're looking at this as an advertising thing, because I do talk up books that we get donated, and if something sticks out as something really cool and neat, I try to learn a little bit about everything, and I need to really be able to pass that knowledge on to some other people that are helping out with the library, so we can get people going, oh, hey, this game does this, or hey, the game designer was really into this or this, and this is totally up your in your wheelhouse. Hey, do you love old 8-bit RPGs? This is an homage to the old, 8-bit RPGs, without the nightmare that was most old 8-bit RPGs.
The challenge rating has seen a sharp decline over the years, and how difficult it is to complete a game.
Yeah. Well, we were at, and Lackey says, tell the into the odd story. So the guy that has been doing all of the Free League, going to the events up all in this area for Free League, they had Into the Odd, a game that hadn't been released yet, and he goes, oh, hey, take a copy. We get it scanned into the library, we put a sticker on it, and I'm putting it onto the table. We've had it a minute and a half at this point. And as I'm putting it onto the table to show in the library, because when we get things donated at an event, I kind of like to put them out and go, hey, this was donated today, kind of thing. And the guy goes, oh, I have been following this. He's like, oh, God, you guys got a copy? I was like, Free League selling them here. And he was like, Free League's here? And I was like, oh, come with me. And I walk him over to the table, and he and his two friends bought copies. And the guy behind the table is like, I literally gave that to you like just a couple minutes ago.
Paid for itself.
Yeah. And I do like Free League is a large enough company that the stuff they send out to shows is, the more you sell, the more we pay for the space, but it's advertising. So it's like Games Workshop. I don't know if they still do it, for years. They're brick and mortar stores around especially the U.S. were actually in their advertising budget, not their sales budget.
Fair enough.
So if a store lost money, it was less of a big deal than if it was a sales store. Let's see. Anything else you want to talk about your game as it's coming out? And I will be taking a look at what you sent me this weekend, and I'll send you back an email, or as I jokingly say, your baby's ugly email.
I have had very, very many your baby's ugly emails and comments over the years, many of them warranted. So that is perfectly fine to me, and especially as someone that's had so much exposure and so much experience to so many different kinds of things. It does need just a little bit of cleaning up still. So any direction that you would want to give me on how to clean it up, make it more clear, more concise, like organize things differently, by all means, I will be more than happy to hear that.
Organization is something like it, and it's funny because people like, oh, I want to do it a little different because I like it this way, and I'm like, I just want to go, there's a reason why most every game does it the same way. It's like one of my favorite games, Palladium, or one of my favorite companies, Palladium. I love Rifts, and people are like, oh man, Rifts is such a hard game. I was like, there's two issues that people have. One, the rules are basically the same they've been since 1989. So the world is ginormous, and everything's balanced within its little subsets. If you pull something out of Atlantis and you put it in Quebec, not balanced. Right. And it's designed that way, to be brutally honest. But the book layout is a little different than what everyone else expects because it was originally put out in 89 and he'd been doing fantasy stuff prior to that. So he already had a layout that there wasn't a semi-industry standard yet. I mean, even you look at the difference between AD&D the first edition and second edition, and their basic editions. Like the layout of those three products from the same company were all different. But from fifth edition or from third edition on, there's been a pretty set way to lay out books, and I'd run into people like, "Oh, I want to try it a different way," and I'm like,
I want to try the way that's going to make sure that makes everyone easy to it makes it easy to consume and understand. Whatever way that happens to be, that's what I want.
And that's the thing is sometimes you go more the industry standard, but like make a couple tweaks that makes it more easy for your game. But like game I like Endless Realms. One of the things I suggested them was because in their class section they put behind each class. So they got a class dancer. So the dancer characters, they do all their casting via, dance, which is a really neat concept. But when you're looking through the dancer section, instead of it being like 3 pages long, it's forever because all of the dancer's spells are also in there. So, and I was like, hey, that's a little different. And they were like, oh, we really want it like that. That way you can just look up dancer and bam, everything for dancers right there. But it's in the middle of the book. When people are trying to do character creation or they're flipping through trying to look at all the different classes, especially the first couple times they read it, they're like, oh, God, just 35 pages later, I'm on the next one. Yeah, it takes them so long. And when you're creating characters, you want to look up classes. You don't want to dig through their spells to get to the next class. And the rest of their game is actually really good. Their spells are great. That's the only issue I ever had was their layout is, move spells into their own section. Don't put them in there with the character class because it makes it such a slog to learn your character classes.
Well, hot dang, I've already got that check mark off from you then because my spells are in the very back of the book separated by class.
See, and that's the way to do it.
And that's the way to do it.
Yeah, because you put weapons together, you put spells together, spells separated by class. Even every now and then you might have a repeat because you have a druid spell that is also a sorcerer spell. Great, you know what?
Oh, we don't.
Yeah, but I'm just saying you may not, but other games do.
And the way the 5th edition did it just makes me want to tear my eyes out. It's so ugly. Anyway,
I have a lot of issues with how their book is laid out because it actually does hinder some people learning. I find that more people sitting down with 5th edition want someone to teach them versus them reading through the book. And I hand them other books that they're like, oh, hey, wow, this is super easy.
Yeah, like I was exactly the same way. Like I started reading through it, and I found myself having to flip over to here, and then flip over to there, and flip over to here, and then flip over to, and like character creation, like just took me bouncing around to all different parts of the book, and I'm just like, I don't want to deal with this. I just here you know the system, like walk me through what I got to do and help me build my character, and that's the way that I did it. So the way that I've got it laid out right now, I hope, is if you go straight through, it will take you through step by step the exact things you need in the exact orders to build a character as you go through the character creation section. I hope. We'll see what your baby's ugly email says, and we'll see what other people say whenever they start beta testing it, which we're hoping to have available in January.
Beta testing and blind play testing is so important.
Yeah, well, I mean, this has been beta tested from day one. Yeah. Like, legitimately, whenever I started, I stood in front of a crowd of 150 people, and I pitched the game that I wanted to run for everyone. And my rulebook at that moment, because I had a week from the time that I asked all those DMs, hey, can my character run in your game? And I got a bunch of maybes. Well, the next week was when session 0 was. And all the DM pitches. So I spent that week making my rule book. And by the time I stood up in front of everyone The next week, my rule book was 6 pages long. But I promised everyone, whatever you want to do, whatever spells you want, whatever feats you want, I'll make it for you on the spot, and I'll make sure you can do it.
Nice.
And from that moment forward, not a single thing has been done in the game that has not been inspired by playtesters. Like I don't know if this is okay. I definitely know this isn't the easy way to do it, and it's probably not even the smart way to do it. But I have been beta testing and play testing this game every single week, sometimes 3 times a week, with different groups of players for 8 years. So I've never gone through development cycles where I just sat down and wrote by myself. Everything has always been made in response to what the players have wanted or what the players have done. So I've been beta testing and alpha testing for 8 years, but getting it into the hands of a larger audience and kind of having them make it where I'm not standing right there behind them like, how you doing, buddy? Hey, what's going on over there? You need any help? Just people that are actually trying to do it on their own is going and like seeing if they can do it on their own, if I have it laid out well enough, and seeing what other people can come up with and what they might find that's broken, what they might find that's too weak, in a broader sense is going to be much better. It's going to be very important.
So on a Lackey asked on a layout organization, have you looked into dyslexic-friendly fonts, color blindness correction, or considered mobility options, form factor like spiral bound, stuff like that, or lay flat binding if it's a bigger book? Because it's funny because in the last few years, really, just a year ago, I really didn't think I knew that there was dyslexic friendly fonts, and because I've done a lot of broadcast work, so there's a reason why industry standard for a script to read is 12 font, all caps, Times New Roman, double spaced. Gives you it's the most moderate speed to read, and being all caps forces you to read every word because your brain takes it in differently. And finding out all those little fun, cool things about fonts, and then didn't know that color blindness was an issue reading a book until had friends that had that issue.
We have done research, and I've not really given myself a great education about it, but the research that we did said that serif fonts are typically easier for dyslexic people to read. So the font that we've chosen is called Brie Serif, for the dyslexic among us. I'm not dyslexic, but I have dyscalculia, which is dyslexia but with numbers instead. So I know the pain of never getting higher than a C in math class just because numbers flip themselves on you as you're reading them. It's a massive struggle. So as far as that goes, we are paying attention to that. I wish that we could make the fonts bigger than what we have. Right now they are in size 9. We are planning to print the book in size 9. And
9's not a bad font. I've seen games that have done it smaller. 9 is okay, but once you start going any bigger than that, 10 is about as big as you want to go, because if you go any bigger than 10, your book balloons.
Your book's like 600. Yeah, it's huge. Because we've already done page count projections and things like that, and even with the size 9 font, even with using relatively minimal amounts of artwork, we're still looking at a nearly 400-page book, and that's not counting the monster manual either. So that's just the rules, how to build a character, and the spell list in one book in size 9 font. So, and a 400-page book is expensive to print if you want it in color. So I really desperately wanted to be able to sell the books when we get to that stage for $35. That's what it's going to cost us, as far as I know. So that's oof. So I would like the font to be bigger than 9, just for the ease of reading, because I know what a pain it is to read size 6.5, 8 font, whatever. It's just not physically feasible to keep the book at a reasonable size for a reasonable price. But we have looked at the dyslexia issue and tried to fix it and tried to make it more friendly. as far as the color blindness, the palette that we've kind of chosen to work with based on the artist that we are replicating the most doesn't have a whole lot of colors that really interact very badly with colorblind people. It's we're using all AI art to fill the whole book. And so one of the major prompts that we're using is my personal favorite artist, Zdzisław Beksinski. And I probably slaughtered the name because it's Polish. And I don't know how to pronounce Polish names. If your Polish friend is still in the audience, hi, sorry. Because he probably knows who the artist I'm talking about. And he's probably going to get mad at me
before you attempt to pronounce anything.
I don't have any vodka, I have bourbon. And that just makes you better at Irish.
Some people in chat say 9 is a tad small. I don't know the font though. I looked up the font. The font is actually is a really nice font to read. So, I think 9 is about as small as you can go. 10 is like 9 to. I don't really want to like going over 10. Your book really starts to balloon.
We going from 9 to 10 will add legitimately another 30 to 50 pages to the book, like because we are currently sitting at 150,000 words.
Yeah, so yeah,
it's not yeah.
And
it's a lot.
Yeah, somebody brought up these are great points to discuss, and they're very rough things to discuss as well because.
You don't think about it.
Yeah, and
not until you're in.
Unless you get a super geeky chat that's going, and the chat's going. It's funny because this is one of the more active chats I've seen, and we're talking about some of the nerdiest things that don't typically get a lot of chatter.
Bro, it matters. Bro, it matters.
Oh, it does because I have picked up RPGs that bad fonts, and you don't want to read them. I'm going to be talking to these guys soon, but. What does that say?
Adelaide? Or
altitude? Everything else about this is good. I mean, they picked a font that was a little more, old school computery look, but they were trying to do mountains in the title.
I can definitely see the thematics of that for sure.
The thematics are a cool idea, but the execution is. I have no effing clue what this says, and if it takes me minutes to to decipher the name of your game, I'm going to move on.
I almost wanted to say Appalachia because the Old Gods of Appalachia is a wonderful and creepy podcast, but
when they're going altitude, they're going like real altitude.
Real altitude.
Yeah, those aren't real mountains. If you can drive over the peak of it, it's not a mountain.
That's true, but they are older than Bones. Like literally, they've been around on this planet longer than Bones have. They're older than the rings of Saturn. It is a haunted place.
People in the YouTube chat trying to guess what it said as well. Like I would have never guessed that. It's a cute little game, but and they operate just down the road for me. I'm like,
that's cool.
Yeah, can't wait to get a hold of them and be like, okay, please just change this just a little bit. Oh, and I also have to say, hey, we hit 200 followers for the channel on Twitch during the event, so makes
yeah.
And Ricky's been Rickety Cat has been saying some cool stuff in chat, so I want to give a heads.
Yeah, I tried to promote it as best as I could across the framework that I have of social media, which admittedly at this point is not very big, but
yeah, our social media isn't big. We haven't been great with it, but we're a small organization, and we continue to grow a little bit every time. And some people are like, oh, what's your reach? I was like thousands upon thousands of people when we go to an event, because we'll have tons of people come through, and I'll be hoarse at the end of the event because I've said the same handful of things over and 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 over again.
Right.
And with the activity, it looks like we might have to do Thursday interviews more often. or just have you come on more often. Maybe you're the key. It's the beard.
I mean, it's not like it's half of my personality or anything.
Just a third.
Because this up here, like, migrated its way from here down to here.
It moved
So
down.
it's all I got. It's all I have left.
Hey, at least it didn't move to here. Coming out the ears.
I mean, it might have. You just wouldn't know right now.
Okay, actually, that is coming out the ears. It's you just molded it into a beard.
If I were a dwarf, then it would just all just. And that's what I wish I could do. I really wish I could do that, but my head just didn't cooperate.
Oh yeah, and Lackey gave us this is when I recommend giving away Uzi stickers at conventions after people confirm they followed the Twitch channel. We will start doing that. Say, hey, follow us on Twitch, or show me that you followed us on Twitch or on YouTube. I will give you an Uzi. Our mascot is Uzi.
Yeah, don't go around saying I'll give you an Uzi. Like, hold on.
With an O, not a U.
Oh, okay.
It still
Spell
doesn't
it.
really make any sense. It's like, you. Do I have to go look this up on Urban Dictionary?
If you type it, it'd probably be better.
Yeah. I can hold up examples of our Uzi, at the events. Like, hey, show me you follow me on Twitch, I'll give you an Uzi. Like, yeah, I prefer 9mm. Our Uzi has a D12 in his mouth, so.
That makes it cool.
Might help to say that we have a gelatinous cube mascot. Yeah, but I don't know if gelatinous cube is trademarked by D&D.
I know they have a few.
Yeah, they've got a bunch of random ones. So we've got a gelatinous
the cube
ooze.
might.
Yeah,
the cube.
Yeah,
the cube might be the ooze. You might be might be good to go. The cube.
We have a gelatinous rectangle that happens to be oozing and noms on D12s and is in various. So the
completely legally safe gelatinous rectangle.
Yes, we have a. He's our emotes, so if you look in the chat, you may see emotes popping up with Uzi. That's his name, and we've got a St. Patty's Day one where he's beer, and a horror one. We've got a Valentine's one. We got a horror one. Instead of the die, he's like puking out finger bones.
Oh, that's really cute. We haven't gone so far as to make ourselves like an official like system mascot yet.
Yeah,
I don't know what it would be.
Our resident artist, my significant other, has been doing awesome stuff like that. She was like, "We need a mascot," and she made an adorable one.
It's always good to have like really artistic people at your fingertips to use for stuff like that.
Then you have autistic people that say, like, "Hey, let's start a nonprofit library that's going to absorb money and time in our lives."
Or people that are like, making a D&D game is easy.
I get those emails from people like, I'm getting ready to go to Kickstarter. Can you look over my game? I'm like, this is notes, not a game. Like, yeah, we'll be ready like 6 months after it closes.
No, you won't.
Like, no,
you won't.
You are 2 to 3 years away. Oh my word. oh, geez. Those emails make me twitch so bad. And then I see about a third of them pop up after I say you're not ready, and they absolutely fail. And sometimes I'll even showcase them on our Monday news, and crowdfunding, and like, hey, you show that they've got words on page and maybe a piece of art, but they don't have a complete game.
Right. I'm never done polishing. Like I'm never happy with it. No matter what I end up with, like a month will pass by and I'll look at it again and say, no. Let me fix that.
You have to get to a point where you're done polishing, because it's never going to be finished. You'll never put out a complete product if you just keep refining it. But you've got to find that happy medium. You want a game that is ready to go to a point. Like I'm happy with the people that have one or two pieces of art and a mostly complete game, and they're going to crowdfunding, saying, "Hey, we're here so that we can do printing and art. We need to pay artists. That's what we're gonna help. That's what the money's gonna help out with." And when they do that, I'm 100% like, yes, they look like they have a complete product. I've looked through it. Yes.
Yeah, where we're at right now, we have the complete rule set done. The book at size 9 print single space, without any art, with just the rules, the character creation and the spell list, is about 320 pages on Google Docs. And we have 150 monsters in the monster manual. We want 200, so we're getting close on that one. And we're hoping to have public beta testing open in January. After public beta testing opens in January, about a year after that is when we would like to get to Kickstarter. That's the time frame, that a year and a half after that. And this is after, like I said, the already 8-year long development cycle that we've already been through. So yeah. I might be going in the opposite direction of like too much.
Rickety Cat in the chat. It's like, no matter how much you polish the Corporalite, it's still what it is.
It is still what it is. Like you got to learn to put it down at some point, and it's going to be hard for me to do, but I'm going to have to do it.
And everybody in chat, raise your hand if you have no clue what Corporalite is. It's fossilized poop.
Gotcha.
So you can only you can't polish a turd until it's fossilized. Then you can polish it, but it's still a fossilized turd.
But now it's a pretty fossilized turd.
Yeah. To a point. Rickety Cat. That was a great way to put the. I like that. I had not heard it referred to in that way before. Because you can't polish a turd, but you can polish Corporalite to a point.
That's a word I had heard before, but like many things in my life, after a certain point, it just leaked out of my various head holes and I forgot.
I store way too much really bad random information. Oh, it comes from the writing world. Well, I'm not a writer, so it's one that I've not heard, and thank you for sharing. I'd rather have a fossilized turd than just a turd.
At least the fossilized turd doesn't stink.
Yeah, we hope. You pulled it from a swamp, and it's permeated from a swamp gas. Okay. Someone in our Patreon always wants me to ask this question.
Okay.
Hot dogs or tacos?
Depends on the quality of which one. Because I've had some footers from shake shops that have been incredible. And I've had some tacos that have just been hot garbage. So, in general, I would say, as long as I have my choice of toppings, I would actually go for footers.
I love both, and why I like both is for entirely different reasons.
Of course.
I love tacos because no matter where you go in North America, if you hit a street or a taco truck, you kind of know what you're getting.
Yeah.
I mean, you're gonna have plus or minus on either side, so you may run into some amazing tacos and be like, oh, I'm gonna rave about them. And you run into others, you're like, oh, that was the worst tacos ever. But the cool thing with hot dogs is every city has their own.
Yes.
I mean, we've got a Seattle dog up here, and the first time I was offered one, I was like, nope. And then I tried it, and I was like, oh man, this is great. So for those listening at home, a Seattle dog. Good dog on a toasted bun with grilled onions and cream cheese. Most people are like, that sounds horrible. And I was about to turn down, guy, he was like, you want a hot dog? I was like, yeah, two Seattle dogs. I asked what was on it, and I was like, I don't know, that sounds gross. He goes, well, then you don't get a hot dog. I was like, oh, F it, I'll try a hot dog. It works.
The funny thing is, where I live, like we have our own hot dog too. It doesn't have its own special name, but we have something special to put on it, and it's just called dog sauce. It is very, very, very finely minced meat with a tomato based. Well, it's not even just tomato based. It is a tomato and brown sugar based sauce because there's so much brown sugar in it. And people are like, oh, you mean chili? No, no, no. It is not chili. It is dog sauce. And it only exists within like, so many 100-mile radius around the tri-state area where I live. And it is its own very unique thing that people might look at it and think it's chili, but it is a completely and utterly different.
I know exactly what
experience.
you're talking about. I have had dog sauce before.
Yes,
but I've also traveled a
wonderful.
lot, so I'm down to 3 states I haven't spent time in: Alaska, Hawaii, and Florida.
The first 2 are great. I'd avoid the last one if I were you.
Yeah, I'm not into. I don't like the ocean. I like mountains and trees, so it's kind of not Florida for me.
Kind of not Hawaii either, but
Well, Hawaii at least has mountains.
That they do. If you go, if you
And
go
then
to the
volcanoes.
right, and volcanoes, the spicy mountains.
They got spicy mountains.
Yeah, I love the beach, but only for short amounts of time. If I had to pick my place to live to be my little writer's hovel, it'd be in a log cabin halfway up a mountain somewhere.
Yeah, I don't know where I'd want to live. Like my perfect place to live. It'd be close enough that I could get to town, but
Yeah,
far enough away that I don't have to deal with the smell of seaweed. But I could take the wife there from time to time. She still likes the waterfront, and I just think it smells like death. Because all you're
that's
smelling
so
is rotting fish and rotting seaweed.
that may be true, but that's honestly the happiest smell in the world to me.
Yeah, and
Like as weird as that, but that's where we always went on vacations. Whenever, like my family, whenever I was a little kid. So every time the smell of the ocean hits me, it's just right back into my childhood.
Yeah.
So it's a very special smell to me.
I love going to lakes, and I love making sure that I like, okay, what area is good for us to walk in so that I don't get fish hooks in my feet.
Fair, very fair.
And lakes don't typically smell like the ocean, so dead fish.
Not until you get a shovel. Not until you get a shovel and pull up a little bit of that mud from the side of the lake. Then you're going to get some smells.
Oh,
but
yeah.
until then,
Absolutely. Do you have a player character confessional you would like to share?
a confessional.
So, in character, so you tell us the name of the character, a little bit about the character, like name's Ricky Bobby, half drow, half dwarf from D&D 3.5, paladin, and then you pause, and then in character, tell us a confession. Like, there I was, and you saw the red dragon, and the red dragon was about to eat the entire party. I happen to have the 2 most expensive pieces of treasure, and I now don't have to share them. You can be as long as you want or short as you want, and as we clip these out, we're going to start putting them back up on YouTube, so it'll be a little shadow with a brick wall behind you and a modulated voice.
I think I know.
Most everybody
I don't get
has
to be a player.
Most everybody has at least one that they can share.
I don't get to be a player very often, but I do have a couple. So this from one of the last times I got to be a player. So this character, his name was Big Al. His name was Big Al, and he was in our system a Rift Walker, which is basically a warlock. And his big thing was contracts. So Big Al's Big Dream Emporium is the business that he owned. So if you sign a contract and anything that you want, you will get within a week through some horrific series of Rube Goldberg experiments that I tickled down. And usually it comes with a big cost, but you're going to get it. And he signs these contracts for you. And he says, no, you don't owe me a thing except your soul. But let's not worry about that. So people sold their souls to him and for his sugar daddy down in hell. and that was his business. And uh he was a human vampire on top of that, and his big thing was that he dual wielded pistols. And at the end of his run, there was this quest to basically stop someone from becoming a god. And because they were getting ready to sacrifice a whole bunch of people on an island and use their souls to do it. And so there I was with the other idiots. We were going through, we were slaughtering everybody that was trying to stop us, because who really could stop us? We get down into the castle. We find her going through her little scheme and her little plan to be a god. Not that big of a deal. We just drop a giant bell on her head. That solved the problem pretty quickly. But, to our surprise, that didn't stop what was happening, the little ritual she was doing. It was still lingering, waiting for somebody to finish. And, well, I've never been the kind of person to waste an opportunity. So I finished it. And that's how I died and became a god. And that is how Big Al of Big Dreams Emporiums ended his career at level 14. And I had to make a new character at level 14.
So what you're telling me is when Al finally killed Peg, Al became a god?
Mm-hmm.
90s TV show reference.
I know the show you're referencing, even though the character that I made was referencing an entirely different show.
Just every time I hear Al, he's like, what is it, Peg? It's always
with his hand in his pants.
Yeah. Somebody's like, is it really like that? They're like, yes, it is. Who do we pray to? Al.
Al.
All worship
Big
Al.
We pray to Big Al. The DM of that game actually turned him into a real god in his setting and made him the god of ambition.
Nice.
Which was fitting.
It'd be hilarious. You just have a character with a slight speech impediment, and everybody thinks that they're, praying to like the god of owl bears or something. I'm the guy that likes to do stuff like that. It is like to tweak it up, and then they meet their god, and they're like, oh, "I'm Al."
Wait, what?
Like, oh, I thought you were an owl. Oh,
no.
This isn't a religion about wisdom? Nope.
Nope.
All hail
I appreciate the prayers, though.
Worthy.
Yeah. But, to be fair, she was going to sacrifice her entire country to do it. Al only sacrificed the capital city. He left the rest of the country alone.
Nice. Now we have owl bears.
Owl bears.
just big bears running around the forest like, hey, need something? Give me your soul. I'll hook you up.
I'll hook you up. Just sign this contract.
Step into my office and he just pulls down the branch of a tree like, sign here.
I might incorporate that into another game.
Got owl bears. Oh, I love how random our chats can be. That's why the first few of these I was fairly scripted and like, gotta do interviews. And I was like when I did the third one, I was like, we're just gonna a little more just of a chat, and we've had a lot of fun.
It's been fun being on.
Open up the tree, the whole desk pops out for the low cost of just one soul.
You can have whatever your heart desires, even though it'll be empty by the time you get it.
Who needs a heart? Okay, well, is there anything that you would like to cover before we finish this little chat out?
No, it's been 2 hours. I've covered all of the really important stuff, I guess, that I wanted to kind of really get across to anybody that might be interested, both now and in the future, so that I can reference this whenever this video hits, YouTube in the
I,
futures.
it's on YouTube right now. We're live streaming on the tubes.
So yeah, character freedom, player freedom, DM freedom, ease of modability, enchanting, alchemy. We didn't talk about alchemy, but like there's a lot of it. Um,
Is that made? Is only doable by the owl bears? I'm sorry, people. I couldn't resist.
Hey, if it becomes a running joke, I will count myself as lucky that I was here for it. No, so basically, like everything like really important that people would really need to know to get in. There's a lot left to talk about, but that's all like minutia compared to the big things that we've already discussed. I've done a lot of this like over the last 8 years with a lot of people helping, but over the last year I've had a really solid dev team that has come in and really put the pedal to the metal and has helped me out a lot. And so I want to thank my dev team, who are all in the chat. Hey guys, what's up? For all the hard work that they've been putting in, and the dozens and dozens of people that have left their fingerprints all over the system over the years as time has went on. I have horrible executive dysfunction. So I'm not very good at like just getting myself up and getting going on starting things. And so my cheat code is having other people have expectations of me. So if other people are like, hey, I need this thing done, that gets me up and gets me working on whatever it is that they need. So without mountains of that over the years, this thing wouldn't be anywhere near what it is.
Helps so much. I mean, well, starting the library, it's my wife and Eric in the chat can attest to. It was just me bashing my head against the wall, not really asking for help, and then like dragging the wife into it, and then I left for Iraq, and those two really stepped up, and now we're part of a much bigger team that actually gets things done versus me going, I can do it last minute. Oh my god! And just everyone watching going, what the f is wrong with this dude?
Yeah, and it's a struggle. It is a struggle for sure, for absolute certainty. But my dev team, all the other people that have been players over the years, my new friends over at the RPG Engine, which is a VTT that we are going to be using whenever we do our first live stream of our first online game. We will be using the RPG Engine, which is I know the guy that made it. He's been working on it for ages, and he's a fantastic guy. And he's given me a lot of really, really valuable advice in the last months too. So that's going to be really awesome as well. So we're really looking forward to exploring his product with our product too. But other than that, well, no, man, thanks a lot for having me. This has been a blast.
Introduce us to that, because we use Roll20 because Roll20 has been awesome to us and given us accounts early on in the library. They were within the first 18 months, they were met some people at Roll20, and I was like, man, it'd be awesome if we had accounts. So like, great, how do you want to set this up? They didn't even pause, and other people didn't return our emails, and we're at a point now where we have people that are reaching out like, hey, what can we do with you? Because they're starting to learn that we interact with tons of people in intangible ways that it's very hard for them to track, and they it's great when we get feedback from some of the companies we talk to and work with, like, oh, hey, had people come over, like people that are making like dice and stuff. We've had people from those companies reach out and say, hey, we got somebody said they're buying dice from us because you talked about us. Q Workshop. They make my favorite D4s. Look up Q Workshop. It's taken me forever to remember their name. They're a Polish dice company. They make some incredible dice. They have some awesome dice I want to get my hands on that are like wood inlaid. They're metal dice with wood inlaid, and they're just stunning looking. But their D4s are awesome, and they've like at several events they've come over to the library and said, "Hey, people have come over and bought D4s from us because they saw you had them and you talked about them. I've had their D4s in our since before the library was a thing."
Right, I can definitely get you in. You would definitely want to talk to and that he's called the Architect, and you can definitely have a chat with him, and he will
Does he
get
sit in
you
a
all set
room
up.
in a white suit with monitors all around him?
He has to. The amount of work that I like, because I've sat with him whenever he's working, and like what he's actually working on, I can't wrap my head around because it's all coding mixed with like digital design and 3D modeling, and I'm like, nope, that's that.
I don't
That's
see
not what I
lines
do.
of codes. That's a blonde. That's a brunette. That's
That's
how
legitimately
how many
what
more bad
what it
Matrix
feels like.
references can we make?
It's been a while since I've seen the movie, so you might need to give me a minute, but I can come up with a few of them.
Whoa. No, this has been a blast. Can't wait to see more about your game. How can people track and follow you? Somebody said something in the chat about your Discord.
Yes, we do have a Discord. I'm pretty sure one of my lovely Debs in the chat can go ahead and post a link to our Discord if anyone wants to go there. You can also, just search basically for Cold Iron Geeks or Plains of Orredon. You'll find it on Reddit. We also have a card, so it's coldirongeeks.card.io, and that'll take you to all the rest of our stuff. Right now, we're mostly trying to work out of our Discord. So that'll be, we're trying to make that as available as possible. You can also find us on Facebook at Cold Iron Geeks, and you can find links to our Discord there as well. So we should be I hope we're easy to find.
And it's
so.
rough when you're not easy to find, because that does happen. You get a name that's very similar to someone else, or and unknowingly, and it's an entirely different project. You're making a tabletop game, and they're making space content. Whatever.
Well, we found a couple companies with a kind of similar name to ours, but they're blacksmiths.
Yeah. And they're gonna have far less search for what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the people are gonna wander up like, "Hey, make me a knife." How'd you find us? I walked here.
I can make you a knife because I am also a blacksmith, but that's not what I'm selling currently.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what. Forged in Fire makes me think I could be one. Gotta love that show.
It's a great show. It's a great show.
Love and I know all the people on there. They're talented, but you're putting someone into extreme conditions that it's what they do in that time limit is bonkers.
It is.
I've got a few friends that have done intro blacksmithing, and it's just awesome. And they were like, "Nope, I am not making anything bigger than it's something for myself. Not making anybody else stuff. That is a lot of work."
It's not easy. I mean, like I had a 1900 Peter Wright 120-pound anvil that I paid like $500 for, and then I made the stand for it. I had a forge, I had a whole building for it. This stuff is not easy. It's fun. Like, it's amazingly fun. I love it, but it's tiring, and you better wear a glove on that hammer hand, because if you don't, you're going to find half your skin missing by the end of your first day.
Well, it has been a blast chatting with you, and I hope people can keep up with you guys, and we'll have you back when you're ready to launch. And if you want to come on and play your game with any of our people on our Twitch and now YouTube streams, we're happy to have you on if you want to figure something out. We just had a cool run from. Oh, dang it! Totally forgot the name of the game. But we did a fun game on. And I got the hiccups all of a sudden on on Sunday. So, well, thank you everybody for tuning in. It has been a blast. Been a very active chat in both Facebook or in both Twitch and YouTube's. Maybe we'll figure out how to stream to Facebook Live as well. I don't know, but you guys have all been wonderful. Thanks for the activity and thanks for all the new follows and virtual nerdy high fives to everyone out there. And well, the library is now closed. You all have a good night and go game with some people. It's good for you, I swear. Good night, all.